I'm Amanda. I'm a wife to Jason, who's sitting here, and a mom to Katie. I'm a neuroscientist. I'm an avid sports fan. I'm only 33, and I'm a survivor. I became a mom in December of 2011 to Katie. Breastfeeding was very important to my husband, and on a science level, I knew that it was a good idea. So I committed to breastfeeding her for a year. I weaned her in December of 2012, and one breast went back to normal, and the other did not. The day after New Year's, I went to my OBGYN, and he advised me that it was just a blood milk duct, and it would clear up and give it a couple weeks. It didn't. February 8th, 2013, I was diagnosed with advanced triple-negative breast cancer. My daughter turned 14 months old that day. I sat in the waiting room of Dr. Rishton's office sobbing, wondering would my daughter even remember me. Being a scientist, I immediately hit the literature, which was really torture. I know how to find papers, and I generally know how to read them, but it's not my field. I had CDs of my imaging, and if it was a CD of my head, I could read it, but the rest of my body, no. And being my annoying self, I insisted that we move immediately. So I got a port and started chemotherapy the following week on Valentine's Day. I posted my diagnosis on Facebook, and my neighbor set up a website to help get my family dinners and childcare. The day of my second chemotherapy session, I realized my hair was starting to fall out, so I had my friends from work over, and we made a party of it. And we had dinner and shaved my head. Katie watched, and my husband collected my hair to donate to Locks for Love. For the next 6 months, I walked around bald, never wore a wig, so she got really used to bald mom. Family came from out of town to help us the weekends after I had chemotherapy when I was in bed for 18 hours a day, because that's a lot when you have a kid that's a year and a half old. I had a friend who recommended a therapist, and I started to see her regularly. I kept working as much as I could, which at that point was about 30 hours a week. My tumor melted away. I had a mastectomy and an axillary dissection, and there was very little tumor left after that. So I started radiation and thought that I was almost done with cancer, and then I wasn't. In August of 2013, Dr. Moden noticed a patch of skin on my breast that she was concerned about. It was biopsied and came back positive for cancer. And I was told it was a recurrence, and at this point my cancer could not be cured, and I could expect to live for about a year. I remember leaving an appointment with Dr. Aylesworth and saying to her, "I just don't look like a person who shouldn't be here in here." I cried the remainder of August. After a couple appointments of me being a whiny, blubbering mess, my therapist basically told me to snap out of it and do something. She demanded I have a mantra that I repeat to myself to focus. I had two. I'm not done yet. I choose life. My therapist gave me the name of her trainer, who was also a breast cancer survivor and had the exact same surgeries that I've had, so she knew how to work with my body. I started to work out again, and I committed to changing my diet. I gave up soda and tried to cut down on sugar. I read up on what foods to add into my diet. I'm not good at cutting things out. Whatever treatment I would face next, my body would be strong. I worked on the emotional level. Pain is a part of life, and you have to confront it. When I needed to, I cried it out and I screamed. I tried to confront the things that scared me most. My daughter would know me because I started to write down stories about how I ended up a scientist and how I met her father. I asked military friends of mine about how it was when one spouse was deployed so I could start to prepare Jason for when I wasn't here. When I needed to calm myself, I turned to music. I've always loved music, and I had a whole playlist of songs for my different moods that helped heal me. When I was growing up, I relieved stress by playing piano, so we bought a piano. I worked on the spiritual level. I grew up Catholic, but I had never been confirmed. I got confirmed on Katie's second birthday, and I chose Agatha as my confirmation name. She's the patron saint of breast disease. In June, I started writing a weekly reflection based on whatever Friday's readings are for a friend's website, so I continue to stay involved in my faith. My husband belongs to the church choir, and their support has lifted me. I made the conscious decision that if cancer was going to beat me, it was going to beat the absolute best of me. I also made the conscious decision that almost no one knows that my cancer is back until I talked here today. So that's out. My family, my boss, my therapist, my trainer, my work friends, wives number 2 and 3, know, but other people in my daily life don't know. And sometimes I feel a little bit guilty that when people ask me how I'm doing, I don't let them know. But I really liked reading about after Nora Ephron passed, how she hid her diagnosis because she didn't want her illness to define her or the way people interacted with her. And that's what I don't want. So I'm on my second clinical trial since January, and most people in my life still don't know that I have cancer. And I'm amazingly proud of that fact, that I live my life so normally that it's not apparent to people outside. I can't tell you the number of times that I've sat there and listened to someone complain to me about something so minor, and I sit there thinking, if you only knew, and I don't mean that in a condescending way, I just wish that people were grateful for what they had, and realize how amazing life is and how insignificant a lot of problems really are, and I feel lucky that I get that. It's been more than a year since my reoccurrence, and I'm still here. I still have cancer in my body, but it's not in any major organ yet. So I'm here and I'm thriving. I'm more alive than I've ever been because I'm fully engaged in my life, every part of it, the painful and the joyous. I still work full time, and I'm in the process of publishing my 6th scientific paper on traumatic brain injury since my diagnosis. Sometimes I wish I did cancer research so I knew more about my options. But I love the fact that I can help contribute to people's lives who are suffering after brain injury. I've had more fun experiences with my family in the past year than ever before, because I've prioritized experiences with them over everything. When I was diagnosed, I didn't think I'd ever hear my daughter say, "I love you." And now I hear it daily. And that's really all I need. I'm not sure that she really gets what's going on, but she has noticed one difference. Almost a year ago in the bathtub, she pointed to a mastectomy scar and asked what it was. I told her that Mommy had been sick, and she went to the doctors to help think about it. And she thought about it again, and she pointed and she said, "All gone?" And I told her yes, and I pointed to the other side and said, "This is a breast, and this is all gone." And so she likes to pull down my shirt at inopportune times, like at church, and point this out and say, "Breast and all gone." But she accepts it, and she accepts me. And in a weird way, that's made me less self-conscious about the scar. Sometimes when I start thinking about what I thought my life would be, I get really down. I know I can't have the career I would have chosen in academic research because I don't want anyone else's employment to depend on me. My health is precarious. We were trying to have a second child when I got diagnosed, and that's not realistic now. But I can't live in that space. So when these thoughts come in, I try to think about what I've gained. If my career was going full speed, I probably wouldn't have had the time to make Katie's Halloween costume from scratch. If we had another child, I probably would have started her in gymnastics. If I didn't have cancer, I wouldn't appreciate my husband the way I do. I wouldn't have my piano. And I wouldn't be as close to my friends. Cancer has changed my life, but it hasn't ruined it. I'm a survivor, and I owe thanks to so many people for getting me to this point. I thank my God for putting the right people in my life. I'm grateful to our families and neighbors, my boss, my coworkers, my dogs, my therapist, and my trainer, and especially my doctors. My daughter, who makes every day an adventure, and my husband, who is scared to death, but with me through it all. And when you need cancer, you need a team around you, so thank you to everyone's team. I believe I'm alive in large part because of my attitude. I've always been someone who's tried to control everything in my life, and I can't. But what I can control is how I respond to it. In a lecture the other day, the speaker used a quote from F. Scott Fitzgerald, which is, "Never confuse a single defeat with a final defeat." The day I was diagnosed was a defeat. The day I was diagnosed with the recurrence was a defeat. Getting kicked off the first clinical trial was a defeat. But none of those is a final defeat. I'm here to fight another day, and I'm not done yet. I also believe I'm here because of science. I'm a neuroscientist, and I believe strongly in the scientific process and in the people that do the work. I believe that more funding is needed, and the structure of funding needs some changes to help scientists do their best. But I believe that it will work. I don't participate in pink ribbon campaigns. I instead choose to use my energy to annoy senators about science funding, because I feel like that's the best way to get us there. I believe there are cures out there, and I'm going to keep fighting on every front I can until the cure for my cancer is found. Thanks.